Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Valapa Girivaradari Gopijana Valapa Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Jana Yashodanandana Brajajana Jana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotra Shutta Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Do you think you could get the book, Glenn, please? The Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead, and we're on text 9. You able to find it on your phone? You got it? Oh, do you think you could go by Ramon? Tasya pritena manasa tam datvai davidastataha pashuton tardade sopi sapuram pratyapatyata yata tasya pritena manasa tam datvai davidastataha Pashaton Tardade Sopi Supuram Pratyapatyata Tasya Pritena Manasa Tam Datvai Davedastataha Pashaton Tardade Sopi Sapuram Pratyapadyata Tam Datvai Vidayastataha Pashaton Tardade Sopi Sapuram Pratyapadyata Tasya Pritena Manasa Tasya with Dhruva, Pritena being very pleased, Manasa with such a mentality, Tam that remembrance, Tattva having given, Ida Vidaha Kuvera son of Idavida, Tataha thereafter, Pashataha while Dhruva was looking on, Arntardade disappeared. Saha, he Dhruva. Vapi, also. Saparam, to his city. Pratyapadyata, returned. The son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. Purport. Kuvera, who is known as the son of Idavida, was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because he did not ask him for anything materially enjoyable. Kuvera is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, why did Dhruva Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod? The answer is that for a Vaishnava there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod if it is favorable for advancing in Krishna consciousness. The gopis, for example, worship Katyayani, a demigoddess. But the only benediction they wanted from the goddess was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking any benediction from the demigods, nor is he interested in asking benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said in the Bhagavatam that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person, but even if a pure devotee is offered liberation by the Supreme Lord, he refuses to accept it. Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asked that wherever he would remain, whether in the spiritual or material world, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kuvera offered him a benediction, he did not refuse it, but he wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Is that a sweater from the Philippines? Is that a sweater from the Philippines? Islander? Oh. Where is it? Hawaii? Oh. No. Thank you. It was a Tulsi. I was wondering what it was. I thought it was like a piece of a flower or something in there. Before I drank, I didn't see the tulsi, so. Om Jnanita Varandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshudamalitam Minitusme Shri Guruve Namaha Kam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Ditcharanam Vanjo Gavuru Vishya Kripa Sindhu Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the translation again. The son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. So Kuvera, Prabhupada says Lord Kuvera, was asking Dhruva Maharaj what he wanted. He was asking him for benediction. So, or what benediction he wanted from Kuvera. So, Dhruva Maharaj, he said that, can you remember what he said in the last verse? Without reading it. He begged that he might have unflinching faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was the verse that Dharmaseta Prabhu read on Tuesday. So, and people wonder why Prabhupada repeats so many things in his books over and over again. Sometimes they criticize Prabhupada, oh, he repeats so many times, the same, but Tirthamaj was one time saying, "Oh, you got to read the Bhagavatam again after you read it." He was saying because you forget everything you read, at the end. Not everything, but yeah, repetition's the mother of learning. So yeah, he asked for. What was that? What is that? A sneeze? Did you hear Ryan sneeze? Okay, that was a sneeze?
I wasn't here on the broadcast, actually. You were speaking, I heard Ryan sneeze, I think, in the kitchen or something.
Oh, okay. So he wanted unflinching faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And why is that? For thus a person can cross over the ocean of nescience very easily, although it is very difficult for others to cross. So that's what he wanted. He wanted faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, it's not that, obviously, as we all know, it's not that when we become devotees or when we become Vaishnavas or when we become aspiring Vaishnavas that we give up all of our desires. We give up our material desires, but we have spiritual desires. So this idea of longing is there. So some within our lineage, there's been many spiritual teachers many acharyas who have written songs about their longing, their different longings for Krishna and so on. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I just wanted to refer to this song. When will that day be mine? So it's a longing. He has. Kabe habe bolo se dina amar. So he says many things within the song. They're actually all very good. Meaningful. So I'll just read it because it's so wonderful. So this is the first verse. It says, "Please tell me, when will that day be mine? When my offenses will end and the power of divine grace will infuse my heart with a taste for the pure holy name." So he's saying, when will that day be mine when I'll give up my offenses towards the holy name? Thinking myself lower than a blade of grass, bringing forbearance into my heart, respecting all and free of false pride, when will I taste the essence of the liquid nectar of the holy name? So this is indicating that one has to develop certain qualities in order to, first they have to get the fences, but also one has to develop certain qualities that will be conducive to one's actually experiencing the nectar of the holy name. So it's not that just anybody could experience it. A person has to be qualified to experience it. And Queen Kunti, she says that those who are puffed up, those who are proud by different things, she says, birth, good birth, education, what else did she say? Beauty, wealth, yeah. And wealth, so that's birth, education, beauty, and wealth, yeah. So they're not humble, and they can't call out fillingly to Krishna or to Govinda. So, but for one who's think themselves lower than the blade of grass, forbearance, very tolerant, respecting all, free of false pride, they could experience the nectar of the holy name. So some devotees, they say, first comes humility, or first becomes humiliation, and then comes humility. So in other words, one is engaging in Krishna consciousness, and they realize over time that they can't do it on their own, and they have many faults, and they commit many mistakes, and it's humiliating. And then after that, after being humiliated by one's attempts, one can become humble. And that's conducive to experience the nectar of the holy name. So neither wealth, so this is the third verse, neither wealth nor followers, nor beautiful women described in worldly poetry. Wow. None of these bodily pleasures do I covet. O Lord Gaur Hari, please give me causeless devotion to your lotus feet, birth after birth. So practically everything in the material world, he's saying, he's rejecting. All material, sense gratification. And that's actually, all devotees are supposed to come to that point. It's not that some one devotee, we were at some house programs, and he would say, oh, the sweets are for me because I'm a grihasta. You can't have them, you're a brahmachari, which I thought was interesting. This is kind of funny. This is a little weird. Well, I could gratify my senses, but you can't. And I was thinking about that. I always thought it was like wrong, and I mean, I didn't take it too seriously. I was like all upset about it, but I always thought it was a little strange and wrong. Yeah, he was well, he was joking about it. He was laughing, but maybe there was a tinge of seriousness there. Oh, hey, it's for me, And of course, there's this idea that within the Grihastha ashram, there's regulated sense gratification. That's the difference between Grihastha and Grihameti. Grihameti means it's not regulated; you just engage in sense gratification. Whereas Grihastha means it's regulated, and you're striving for Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada would say that for men, he said many times that they're in the ashram, the brahmachari ashram, and they're told many times through scripture and through whatever, talking this and that, yeah, it's best just to avoid that. A lot of complications, entering Grihastha ashram, a lot of complications, a lot of difficulties. So best to avoid it. And if you can't, then fine. It's a license for sense gratification. Prabhupada would say that. Grihastha ashram is a license for sense gratification or sex life. It's a license for it, if one cannot avoid it. So anyways, going back to that devotee, said, "Oh, it's I'm a grihastha. It's for me, the sweets." So, but then interesting enough, I read somewhere in Chaitanya Charitamrita a verse and a purport where Prabhupada was saying that, oh yeah, for renunciates they should try to avoid, or they should avoid, and they should give all the prasad to the grihasthas. Which, oh, that's quite interesting. So, because anyways. But whatever the case is, whoever one is, whatever situation one is, actually they're supposed to come to the level of sannyas, which may not mean formally accepting sannyas, with the danda and changing the cloth and putting Swami on your name or whatever, but adding Swami to your name. But the whole mentality of sannyas, which means giving up everything, material sense gratification, material desires. And it could be engaged in material energy in Krishna service. That's quite common, done properly. And everything for Krishna. So one time Prabhupada gave sannyas to this devotee named Navayogendra. He's still around, and he's still Swami in ISKCON. So he gave sannyas to Navayogendra in Bombay, in Juhur, Mumbai. So he gave a talk and gave him sannyas, and then they called him to Prabhupada called him to his room. So Brahmananda was there, and Navayogendra Swami was there. So Navayogendra Swami, Brahmananda said, "Oh Prabhupada, you're so kind. You're so kind that you gave Navayogendra Swami sannyas." And Prabhupada said, "Oh, I'm not kind." He said, "I'm cruel." Now he can't gratify his senses. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. He's saying that I just reject it all. And he's praying to Lord Chaitanya to give causeless mercy to his lotus feet, birth after birth. So when as I chant the divine name of Sri Krishna, will my body thrill with ecstasy and my words choke up? When will pallor and trembling occur? And when will my eyes pour forth endless streams of tears? So he's longing for this. When will all this develop within me? When will I run about the Ganges bank at Navadvip, guilelessly calling out Gaura Nityananda, dancing and singing like a madman, giving up all mundane considerations? When will Lord Nityananda show me mercy and release me from the illusion of materialism? When will he give me the shade of his lotus feet and let me enter the marketplace of the holy name? I shall buy still the mellows of the holy name of Hari, and after becoming intoxicated with those mellows, I shall become stunned. By touching the lotus feet of the great souls who relish those mellows, I shall constantly drown in the sweet nectar of the name. So these are all aspirations he has. So Dhruva Maharaj, he's being asked by Kuvera, what do you want? Dhruva Maharaj said, I want unflinching faith and remembrance in Krishna. So within Krishna consciousness, we do want things, but we want to aspire for the real things, for the true things, for the things that are actually important, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining here, all these things. And then he says, when will compassion for all fallen souls awaken within this Bhaktivan node? And when will he thus forget his own happiness, and with a meek heart set out to propagate the humble entreaty, the sacred order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So he's saying, so he's also aspiring, when will that day come when I'll be full of compassion? And thus I'll forget my own happiness, and with a meek heart set out to propagate Lord Chaitanya's message. So these are all aspirations that we could strive for as well. That's the whole point. That's why he wrote these songs. He wrote them for himself on one level, but also he wrote them for us. He wrote them for people who will be practicing Krishna consciousness in the future. Because we need this. We need to fill our minds with these types of aspirations, or else we'll fill our minds with many other types of aspirations. Like this guy next door, our buddy. Just so many aspirations. To have a nice, expensive car, and to enjoy life materially, right? by the beach. I mean, he lives right next to the temple, by the way. Hardly comes here. Unfortunately. I mean, he came here a few times. Good, you know. In many ways, he's friendly. I mean, maybe we should try to preach to him, this and that, give him prasad. And yeah. He came to the lounge one time. I gave a talk there, and he also came for breakfast. Damodar invited him. But so many aspirations he has. You could tell, I mean, it's written all over his face, and all over his body, and all over his car, and all over his everything. You could tell, actually, a person's eyes, a person's face, you know, there's certain indications of material desires. You could see. So he's obviously full of material aspiration. Wealth, women, he's all about that. So, yeah, that's what happens if one doesn't engage in Krishna consciousness. They just become full of other aspirations, which are completely opposite to Krishna consciousness. Wealth, women, followers, all this stuff. It's completely opposite of Krishna consciousness. Why is that? Because it's not really intrinsic to the soul. It's not what the soul's meant to do. The soul's meant to love. The soul's meant to serve, engage in loving devotional service to Krishna and to the devotees, and to be humble, and to not take their pleasure in this material world and everything it offers. The soul is actually not meant for that. And if one fails to actually engage in the process of Krishna consciousness properly, then one is just forced to engage in worldly life. So we want to read about these different aspirations, and we ourselves, we want to have these aspirations. Not when will the day come when I make a lot of money and I, you know, enjoy my senses, or when will that day come when I don't know, whatever the aspiration is I meet some beautiful woman and she, whatever. So those are, when will that day come when I become very famous or whatever. So we want to come to the point where we're aspiring for this. And this is actually, on many levels, is actually success. Just to come to this level of aspiring for that. This is actually a very successful step in the right direction. When we have these aspirations, it means we're making advancement. So he mentions here also this idea of respecting people. Now, Srila Prabhupada, at some particular cases, Srila Prabhupada was seen to be criticizing people. He'd be criticizing people. And a lot of these people, within people's minds, they'd be religious leaders. Prabhupada was criticizing prominent religious leaders within India. And Prabhupada was out and out criticizing. Sometimes he would use their name, and sometimes he wouldn't use their name. And so people ask, well, how is that spiritual? How is Srila Prabhupada doing that spiritual? He's pointing out the faults of others. How is that spiritual? Isn't it going against the idea that Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, being very meek, being very humble, being very tolerant, being very respectful? How is it respectful to criticize somebody? So people sometimes wonder, and also devotees wonder, why did Prabhupada do this? Or they don't fully understand or grasp. Maybe they have a problem with it. So there's one particular case where Prabhupada was there on Juhu Beach, and there's a Dr. Patel. There's morning walk conversations with Dr. Patel. You could listen to him. So Dr. Patel, many ways he's a cultured person. He would kind of brag about himself. He went to England and went to college there, and he didn't fall into sinful activity, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, all this stuff. And he knew some Sanskrit, and in many ways he was an intelligent person. But devotees couldn't tell, is he a Mayavadi? Is he a Vaishnav? Who is he? They couldn't really tell. So one day, Srila Prabhupada was criticizing some prominent spiritual leader, and Dr. Patel just more or less lost it. And they just started yelling at each other, shouting at each other. And, of course I mentioned this some time ago, but, so then Dr. Patel stopped going on the walks, and then a few days later he passed, and he went up to Prabhupada and he said, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, I was taught that I should respect all spiritual leaders within India, saints of India." And Srila Prabhupada said, "Yes, and I was taught who to say who is a saint and who is not a saint." So Prabhupada didn't budge. So in other words, Prabhupada is saying that you think they're saints, but they're not saints. And you could really tell when somebody is attached to a particular thing or a particular conception when you mention it and they become angry about it. That's when you tell that they're attached to a particular conception. Like, for example, I was in the lounge, this was years ago, and there was one bhakta there, and he had some attachment to SRF, Yogananda. So I started criticizing Yogananda. No, to him personally. And I was saying, yeah, Prabhupada says he's an impersonalist, he's a Mayavadi, he, we think we're all God, practically speaking. I mean, yeah. And then I pulled up a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote about Yogananda, because there's like a Bhakta Chris who asked about Yogananda. And, I mean, I don't know if this really cough is like, for some reason, acting up right now. But Prabhupada said that, oh yeah, he's a good shopkeeper. You go in there and there's Buddha and there's Jesus Christ, and then there was even a statue of Mahatma Gandhi. So just like whoever you wanted was there. And when it comes down to it, yeah, he is a Mayavadi, he's an impersonalist. He doesn't understand that Krishna is a person. And him propagating this message to so many people, which I don't know how really effective it is, but it's cheating people, because it's not telling people the full truth. You're just telling them partial truth. And you're actually being disrespectful to Krishna the person. So I started to say that, he just got angry. He was shaking, and his face was turning red, and just like super angry with me. And maybe I shouldn't have said that, I don't know, but I read the letter to him and everything, and yeah, he got upset. So my point is, I could tell that yes, he was attached to this conception, although he was living in this temple. So similarly, you were saying, Prabhupada was saying certain things to Dr. Patel, and Prabhupada, pressed a button. He was attached to a particular thing, he got mad. And that's how you could tell where somebody is, means what their philosophy is. If you start saying something about it, they become angry. And Srila Prabhupada gave the example that there was a man who spoke many languages, and no one really knew where he's from. So then somebody went up to him, I could figure it out. And he went up to him one day, and then he just, hit him in the back of the head with a stick or whatever he did, Just pushed him or something. And then the guy, he cursed in his native tongue, so you understood, okay. That's what. So if you say certain things, you could tell where people are. Is this person a Mayavadi? Is this person a Vaishnav? Based on what their reactions are. So Srila Prabhupada would sometimes, what I'm getting at here is that in terms of respecting people, It's not that we are just, it's not that we just blindly respect anybody and everybody. Yes, we respect everybody, but we also call a thief, or we call a cheater. And this is the difference between Mayavadism and Vaishnavism. The Mayavadis, especially the Neo-Mayavadis, the New Age Mayavadis, hey, just respect everybody. It's all good. You could do whatever you want. I could do it, Just respect everybody. We're all good. We're all one. So Vaishnavas, they don't say that. They say, no, a person is, this person's a cheater, and he's not teaching the truth. So that's the difference, that the Vaishnavas actually will point that out, whereas the Mayavadis don't. So in other words, we're not just into sentimentally respecting people, which is a very important point. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that one can use names for the purpose of teaching. So he may not use names, or devotees may not use names of particular individuals they're talking about, but they may use names, and that's not wrong. And it says that anybody who, because the idea is that one individual is thinking another individual, the teacher or a teacher, is wrong for using a particular name or example, and they think, oh, that teacher is criticizing that other individual, and he's wrong. But if it's for the purpose of teaching, he's actually not wrong. So one individual is criticizing a teacher for criticizing somebody because they think it's wrong, but it's actually not wrong. But the person who's criticizing the teacher, they actually are committing the offense. So for example, Prabhupada criticizing somebody, Prabhupada's not wrong. But somebody who criticizes Prabhupada and says, oh, he shouldn't do that, they're wrong. You follow what I'm saying? So they're wrong for criticizing him. Now, of course, it says that for one to be able to pull this off, to do this, they should be free from certain mundane like impediments in devotional life, like hatred and pride and different things like that. Because, in other words, if somebody's criticizing somebody, it should be coming from a good place. It means ultimately a good place, not a bad place within our consciousness. Ugly place. So yes, we respect everyone, but we don't sentimentally respect everyone. We will say things that need to be said. Like Prabhupada says, a Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kuvera offered him a benediction, did not refuse it. He wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement of Krishna consciousness. So Kuvera, Dhruva Maharaj is asking for this remembrance and faith. And of course it's demigod Kuvera, but Prabhupada gives example. Katyayani, the gopis prayed to Katyayani, goddess Katyayani, who's a demigoddess, to have Krishna as a husband. So it's not against the principle to pray or take benedictions from demigods if the benediction is for one's advancement in Krishna consciousness, which is examples here of Dhruva Maharaj and the gopis. Of course, I don't think anybody here is going to have any demigods appearing to them anytime soon, asking if they want benedictions. I don't think so. I don't think Shiva's going to come to anybody here, or Brahma, maybe in a dream or something. But that's pretty advanced too. So I don't think that's the case. So we don't necessarily have to worry about it so much. And I don't think devotees here are too attached to worshiping demigods for benedictions. I don't know. But if we are attached, then we should pray for Krishna consciousness. If we want to worship some demigod, we should pray for benedictions that will help us in our Krishna consciousness. And yeah, ultimately, devotee doesn't care. The spiritual world, the material world, heaven, hell, it doesn't really matter for a devotee as long as they can remember Krishna. So we have to try to come to that platform where we're not wanting anything from Krishna. That's a very important aspiration to develop as well, whereas we don't want anything. It's not that we're associated with Krishna, or even the devotees also. Sometimes they say too much praise is a sign of a thief. I think it's a Bengali saying. Too much praise is a sign of a thief. So, so in other words, whether it's devotees or Krishna, we don't want to be associated with them because they could, whatever, they're our ticket to higher positions in the movement, or they're our ticket to prestige and whatever. They're our ticket to the Mahaprasadam booth, whatever. We don't associate with devotees for that. We associate with devotees just for the benediction, for the blessings of their association. We don't associate with, for them, anything material. And Prabhupada says even spiritual things, going to the spiritual, we don't want anything. We just want service. We just want to associate. We just want the relationship. That's called selflessness. That's what we want. That's what we should want and strive for. All right, does anyone have any questions or comments? What does power crunch mean, Mark? Power crunch? Oh, okay.
I have two questions. So, you were reading the Bhajan, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You were discussing the aspirations, and we should have such aspirations. And there's this idea that we shouldn't skip over acharyas. Like when you offer obeisances, you offer to your spiritual master and then Prabhupada and so forth.
Yeah.
But what about, so say a previous acharya of ours, we really particularly like their mood, or such as that. Is it okay to pray to them? Is it okay to pray to them, or should we pray to Prabhupada? And how should we go about that?
Shivaram Swami, he wrote this little book. It's like a small book, and apparently, he may read the whole thing every day, but it's a whole bunch of prayers, like a lot of prayers. And there's prayers to the Panchatattva, there's prayer to Radha Shyama-Sundar, there's prayers to the gopis, there's a bunch of prayers like to practically everybody, almost. Not everybody, but a lot of different personalities. And as far as I understand, this is what he prays every day to all these personalities. Of course, you have to arrange your life in such a way that you have a program like that. I would think that that's maybe part of his morning or noon or evening program or something. But, so yeah, to pray, we could pray to the previous acharyas. There's no problem. But it should all be seen or all be experienced, you could say. In other words, we shouldn't forget Prabhupada, but we could meditate on Prabhupada and pray to Prabhupada and read Prabhupada's books. But we could also, in addition, you could say, to that, we could also add Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and many other acharyas, because we have a whole line of acharyas and we should become very familiar with them, their lives, different emphasis of their teachings, their books, their songs, their moods, but never to forget, Srila Prabhupada's emphasis and his mood and his teachings and how he presented it. But yeah, we should become familiar, because ultimately we are connected to them, and we should know who we're connected to. Like, people have this idea of family tree, right? They want to know, okay, I'm here, and then my mother and my father, and their mother and their father, and going all the way back, and different names, and oh, they're from here, they're from here. Oh, this guy, he did this, and he did that, and whatever. Different activities they did. So we're kind of curious, what is our family tree? Or nowadays people do the swab, they take a little from their saliva, they send it in and pay some money, and all right, you are 2%, Filipino, 25% German, 22% whatever, Irish, and then people, 50% animal. Oh my God. So people are interested in their family lineage, their family tree, history. So there's a lot to study. There's a lot of personalities to become absorbed in and to meditate on, and so we should know about them, and we could pray to them. All right.
So you're talking about. No, thank you for answering the first question. You're talking about not sentimentally showing somebody respect. So at Gaura Purnim here, there was this Mayavadi sannyasi and his disciple over here, and
is he? You're not talking about young boy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why?
Oh, I was just wondering who you're talking about, because I think there was another one here too also. Another older sannyasi. He was like in his 50s or 60s.
He wears glasses. He's a little.
Yeah.
He's got his young disciple.
Yeah, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about this older sannyasi. Yeah.
Why? He said, oh, you're not talking about them, right? Am I not supposed to?
Oh, no. I thought you were talking about somebody else.
Oh, okay. But
Mr. Nath. I thought you were talking about Mr. Nath.
I don't know who that is. But during the serve out, everybody was being served, and I overheard a senior devotee say, "Oh, this personality, this sannyasi, is here, and he's very nice, so we should serve him very nicely." And I was like, why? Because Prabhupada was clearly against all Mayavadi concepts and Mayavadis in general. So why? I was just a little bit taken aback. Like, why do we have to extend to show so much respect to this person who stands for something that Prabhupada is clearly against? It's really good.
All right.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that particular person, I think he's part of the Kali temple, and I'm not exactly sure what he believes or follows or teaches. But it's really hard to say, because he may not. There's Brahmavadis and there's Mayavadis. So Mayavadis are just out and out offensive, because they say Krishna has no form, and we want to merge into Krishna. It's light, Krishna's ultimate light. And they think all the bhakti yogis are sentimentalists, and so on. So they're offensive to Krishna and the devotees. So they're offenders. But the Brahmavadis means they just don't really have any experience or have any knowledge or association with devotees that would help them come to the platform of actually understanding that there is Krishna the person. So they're just Brahma, that's all that's as far as they went. Like Shukadeva Goswami in the Bhagavatam, he was a Brahmavadi. That was his attachment to the personal, effulgence. Same with the four Kumaras. They had attachment to the personal effulgence. They weren't Mayavadis or Brahmavadis. And they're actually not considered, they're not considered to be like the Mayavadis. It's a different category. They're not considered to be offensive like the Mayavadis. Because it's kind of like the difference between atheist and agnostic. I mean, you have a die-in-the-wool, right? That's called die-in-the-wool hardcore atheist. And depending on his level of atheism, I mean, like just recently, Notre Dame, right? It burned down. You know, some construction workers were working. They just burned down. I mean, you see the video. The things, it's horrible for religious people. But depending on a certain level of atheist, they say, "Oh, great! You know, that's just a ordinary building, and these people are just an illusion." And it's actually great that happened, depending on their level of atheism. So, and you have so you could say that they're offenders actually towards God or religious people. And then you have like agnostics. Agnostics, oh well, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a God. You know, maybe there's not. And they're kind of open to on some level. So it's kind of like the difference between the Mayavadis and the Brahmavadis. So this particular individual, I don't really know him. Maybe he's more on the Brahmavadi platform. And apparently, I mean, on some level, it would kind of make sense that he would be more on the Brahmavadi platform or who knows what platform it is, because he's coming to the temple. You know, if he just thought this was a bunch of illusion and all these guys are just a bunch of sentimentalists, and it wouldn't seem like he would be so eager to come to the temple, you know. And he seemed a little respectful too. It wasn't like all like, "Oh, I'm here and you guys are a bunch of fools." He seemed kind of low-key, kind of humble person, at least to some degree. So this devotee, this senior devotee you mentioned, he probably knows him to some degree. And aside from that, Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even Mayavadi sannyasis, he says, because they've accepted they're on a certain level of detachment or renunciation, they should be offered obeisances as well, the Mayavadi sannyasis. But he said that although they should be offered respects, externally one shouldn't intimately associate with them. But it's just the principle of respecting sannyasis. Because within Vedic culture, this idea of renunciation is given a lot of importance, and it's given a lot of respect. That's why you bow down to sannyasis when you see them, because the idea is they're finished with material life, and that's what they're standing for. Right? The four rods, it's the body, mind, words, and then the soul, all dedicated to Krishna. So, yeah. So is that fine? Okay. Is there any other questions or comments?
No.
You have any puns, Mukunda? Come on. Who does?
I have one in store for you, won't we?
You have one in store for me?
Well, yes.
Okay. All right, Granted, srimadbhagavatam.